Good morning, all. Hope I am audible. Please message your attendance in the chat window. So I hope the PPT is visible for you. So till the last class, we were dealing with the hardware components. So today onwards, we'll be seeing the software side. So software, it's a set of programs which is designed to perform a well-defined function. So a program is a sequence of instructions written to solve a particular problem. So basically, there are two types of software. Uh, Adulya is here. Adulya.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what are the two different types of softwares that you know? You have studied C++, right?
Yes. Good.
Okay. Tell me what are the two different types of software?
Operating system applications. Application software.
Yeah, application software and
Operating system.
yeah, system. I mean, application software is correct. Operating system comes under another type of software, which is that.
System software.
Yeah, it comes under system software. That is correct. So basically, there are two types of software, that is system software and application software. So application software, you call it app for short. It is a computing software designed to carry out a specific task other than one relating to the operation of the computer itself, typically to be used by the end users. So some of the kinds of application software are designing software, a computing software, or an editing software. So application software, it would run on the platform that is created by the system software. So it is not absolutely essential for running a system, but it would make the system more useful. So if you didn't install application software also, any application software in your system also, it would work fine. But it is more user friendly to have application softwares installed on your system. So next is system software. So system software, it consists of a variety of programs that support the operation of a computer. So the programs are implemented in either software or firmware. Firmware means software installed on a hardware like a BIOS. So that would make the hardware usable. So the software would make it possible for the users to focus on an application or other problem to be solved without needing to know the details of how the machine works internally. So system software they would be machine dependent. That is, whatever is the underlying architecture, it would depend upon that. So basically, we can say that there are four different types of system software. You can also add firmware into that. So firmware is nothing but software which is installed on a hardware. An example would be BIOS. So system software is of different type. That is, I think Atulya already told operating system. Then we have device driver, utility, and translator. So operating system, you already know. You know that you have an operating system installed on your device. Other than that, device driver. What is the need for a device driver? Is there anyone who knows the answer? What is the need for a device driver? Angela is here. Angela is not here. Yeah, have you you didn't I know you didn't study programming, but I just want to know whether you know what is meant by device driver.
I don't know, ma'am.
Okay. Nibun Das is here.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what is meant by device driver?
Suppose you install a mouse in your laptop.
Yeah,
That is
correct.
enough.
Yeah. So whenever you try to install a hardware on your computer, you might have seen, like, if you if you're using your USB for the first time, so your pen drive, when you connect it through the USB port into your system, you might see that device installation is taking place. You might have seen that message. So internally, device drivers are getting updated because devices, they are provided by different vendors. So in order to make that device run on your system, you need to have device drivers. So that is there. Then you will see what is meant by utility and translators. So operating system, as you know, it would, if you don't have an operating system installed on your device, will not be able to work, right? So, you know, you might be using any of these operating system. So can you tell me the logo? This operating system is whose logo? I mean, this logo is which operating systems? Anne Maria, can you identify this logo?
Yes, ma'am.
This logo is of which operating system?
Windows.
Yeah, it is correct. So Windows is currently using Windows 10 and all. It is using that this logo. Then this one, Mac OS. Anshi. Anshi is here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
This operating system is used by which vendor? One company
No, ma'am, I
uses.
don't know.
Okay, Ashwin.
No.
Albert.
Ma'am,
Don't
Linux
know,
is
ma'am.
made.
Albert don't know.
Don't know, ma'am.
Alina. Alina Gigi.
Yes, ma'am.
This OS is which vendors, which company produces or develops this operating system, Mac OS?
Apple,
Hello?
Ma'am,
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it is correct. So this is the OS which is developed by a company called Apple. So that is also correct. Next is this one. So I'll ask Ajal. Ajal is here, right? So this logo, Ajal is not here.
മാം അജലിന് കയറാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
He might have come late. That is why. Okay, just a second. Oh, you people have messaged in the chat and all. I didn't see those chat. So people who have come late today will not be given attendance. So I was asking someone, right? Adil, I will call Adil then. Adil is here?
Yes, ma'am. Ubuntu.
Oh, yeah, correct. So this one is the logo for Ubuntu. That is, it is Linux operating system. So one of the Linux distributions is called as Ubuntu. So that is the logo for Ubuntu itself. So operating system is required because it is responsible for performing all the basic jobs like managing the file management, then process management, memory management, everything it is done by the operating system. So it is a mandatory aspect of the computer, and it is acting as the manager for all resources. So it is called as a resource manager. So OS would essentially determine how a user interacts with the system. So you know that the way Windows GUI is different from a Linux GUI. So next is device driver. So operating system, is it okay? If it is okay, we'll move on. If it is okay, please message in the chat. Okay. So remember, when someone asks you who is the resource manager for the system, it is the operating system. Don't forget it. Next is device driver. So device driver, as I have already told, whenever you try to install a new component or a peripheral into your, if you try to connect that into your system, you would require that device will internally install something called as a device driver. So you will see a message that device installation is taking place. So device drivers, they are needed for every peripheral and device connected to a computer, from the mouse and keyboard to the printer. So whatever be the device, you need to have a device driver. The reason is that your mouse might be provided by, say, iBot. Keyboard might be coming from, it does not happen with laptops. When it is a desktop, you might buy a keyboard from some other vendor, and a printer might come from some other vendor. So all these has to work with your device. So you need to install a device driver. So it's a type of system software that would allow the OS to effectively identify and communicate with that hardware connected to the machine. So the operating system can include device drivers for basic components like the mouse and the keyboard, but peripheral manufacturers often provide disks with drivers for users to install with their hardware. So usually we used to have CD drives which were coming along with the hardware. So now it is plug and play, automatically everything would happen. So anyway, device driver is required so that you can connect your hardware which is coming from a different vendor to the computer. So have you understood the importance of device driver? If it is okay, please message in the chat. So, okay, now we'll move on. Next is utility software. So utilities, again, it is a type of system software. So they include a variety of specialized programs that can be applied across applications. So they are designed to aid in analyzing, optimizing, configuring, and maintaining a computer system. So there are utility softwares for troubleshooting. There are diagnostic software that is to give you error messages. that can scan a system or other program to find errors and missing files. So your software, like antivirus software, what is the task of an antivirus software? If someone knows the answer, please unmute and speak, or you can message in the chat. What is the importance of an antivirus software? Yeah, Albert is saying that it would clean up the viruses that have attacked the system. So the aim of the antivirus is to protect your system from virus attacks. So virus are nothing but the malware that would affect your system. So you should use your system in a secure manner. Otherwise, there are many viruses available in the internet. Those viruses would attack your system. So antiviruses are softwares that would protect you from those attacks. Then you have disk cleanup and management tools, compression tools, defragmenters, etc. They are all utilities tools. So these, the importance of these you will learn in your operating system, because you have concepts like internal fragmentation, external fragmentation and all. There is nothing but the wastage of memory. So that is secondary storage. So in order to avoid that, you need to do compression, defragmentation, in order to avoid those wastage of space. So I'm not going into the details of that. So anyway, all these softwares would come under utility software. So if it is okay, we'll move on. Okay. So you have the hardware, that is various hardware devices would be present on your system. In order to interact with those, we don't interact with those hardware devices directly. We use in between system softwares like operating system. There are many utility softwares. Then there are device drivers, everything are there, so that the interface to the hardware would be easier. So what a normal user would interact is with an application software. Understood. So you have browsers, you have gaming software, audio and video software, your database software, word processors like your Microsoft Word or spreadsheet. You might be using PPTs and all. So everything, they are part of the application software. So normal users would interact only with the application software. Internally, we have different system softwares that is helping you to interact with the hardware in a nice manner. So if the diagram is clear, please message in the chat. So our aim is to interact with the hardware in a nice manner. So we don't have to think about whatever is the complexity of our hardware device. We can interact with our application software. So, okay. So basically, as I have told, software is of two types, that is application software and system software. Then application software can again be divided into general purpose and specific purpose. Then system software, as I have already told, it can be divided into OS, device drivers, utilities, and language translators. So we can say that operating system, device driver, and utility software, they are part of system management software, whereas language translator, they come under system development tools. Then we have general purpose, that is whatever our Word document, image editors, spreadsheets, etc. would come in the general purpose software, because we can use it for different purposes. But specific purpose application software means you are using SpanUse. So SpanUse is a specific software which has been implemented for our college for noting down the attendance, your marks and all. So similar to that, there are many specific purpose application software, maybe for reservation or your cinema booking, attendance. Then you have billing softwares, then report card generators, etc. So for us, SpanUse, it is combining both the attendance and the report cards. So there are various softwares which are built for a specific purpose, as well as there are softwares which are provided for you for your use in a general purpose manner. So if it is okay, place message in the chat. The diagram is okay. So again, thank you for the response. So now we will move on. Now we'll come into programming language, because anyway, the aim of the subject is to learn C language. So it is one of the programming languages out there. So programming language defines a set of instructions that are compiled together to perform a specific task by the CPU. So we have the programming languages. Again, it is divided into two parts, that is low level languages and high level languages. So our programming languages can be broadly classified into these two, low level languages and high level languages. So low level language means they are used to write programs that relate to the specific architecture and hardware of a particular type of computer. Because you only told me like you're using Intel machines, some others are using AMD machines, etc. Right? So those architectures, they are different. And Intel architecture might be different. It is different for i5, i3, i7. So there are various versions of Intel processor itself. AMD also has its own. You have Ryzen. Then I don't know what other versions are there. Anyway, it is there. So low-level language means it is used to write programs that relate to the specific architecture and hardware of a particular type of computer. So they are closer to the native language of a computer, that is binary. Now, Anuranj is here. Anuranj. Okay, Anuranj is absent. Diya.
Yes, ma'am.
What language does a computer understand? Are you going to answer or not, Diya? If you don't know the answer, please say, I don't know. Diya, are you saying something? Harsha? Harsha is here?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me the language that a computer understands.
Binary language.
Binary language means what?
Zeros and ones.
Yeah, that is correct. So a computer would understand only one language, which is written in binary. It has only zeros and ones. So this is the only language that the computer understands, and that is called as the machine language. So if you are asked to write a program in this manner, which has only zeros and ones, you know that it would be quite difficult. So this is actually the only language that the computer understands. So anyway, low-level programming language, it is divided into two. That is machine code, which is the actual language that the computer understands, and a slightly more friendly one that is called as the assembly language or the assembler language. So we'll see what are they. So first is the machine language.
So,
Hello, who's that? Just a second, I need to know who's that.
ma'am, excuse me.
Who's that? Yeah, Matthew Abhijit. What is it?
Will we study any of this low level language?
Yeah, you need to study this assembly language. This is required. You will study it in system software in your higher semester. That is, you will see an assembly language, which is a hypothetical machine language. I mean, assembly language. And again, you need to study it in microprocessor subject. For a real processor, you'll be studying it. So you need to study this assembly language. You'll learn about binary in your switching theory and logic design anyway. So is it okay,
ma'am.
Abhijit?
Thank you. Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So machine language, it is a low-level language comprised of binary digits. So it has only ones and zeros. So this is the only language that a computer can understand. So creating a program in a machine language, it would be very difficult for a normal programmer because you have to write your instruction in zeros and ones. So as you might have already understood, it would be very error prone because every line you need to write it in zeros and ones. So it would be error prone and it would not be easy to understand. And if something, some error has happened, it would be identify where that error has occurred. So it is error prone as it is not easy to understand and its maintenance is also very high. A machine level language is not portable. Portable means if you write it for one computer, one architecture, it would run only on that architecture. If I take an Intel machine level language and try to run it on AMD machine, it won't run. So a machine level language, it is not portable. That is the meaning. As each computer would have its own machine instructions. So if you write a program in one computer, it will no longer be valid in another computer. So if it has a different architecture, it won't run. So machine language, is it okay? If it is okay, please message in the chat. So, okay. Next is a slightly more user-friendly language, that is the assembly language. You can call it as an assembler language or you can say it as ASM. So it is also a low-level programming language designed for a specific type of processor. But it has human readable commands like move. We can call, say, move A, B, where A and B are registers. So it will say like move the content of register B into A. But depending upon the architecture, it might also say that move the content of register A into B. So anyway, you can read those commands. So these move, add, subtract, etc. They are called as mnemonics. So assembly language, they are written in mnemonics. I hope my handwriting is readable. MNE. It is called as mnemonics. So assembly code, again, it needs to be converted into executable machine code because again, that is the only language that is understood by the computer. So this assembly language, which is in move, add, sub, etc., that has to be converted into machine code. So you need to have a translator there, a language translator there, that is called as an assembler. So assembly language provides a necessary bridge between the underlying hardware of a computer and the higher level programming languages such as Python or JavaScript in which modern software programs are written. So you might have an assembler in between to convert whatever you have written in your high level language that is converted into your machine code. So assembly, high level language is directly not taken by the assembler to convert. You again have something else in between. That is either it might be a compiler or an interpreter. So is the assembly language okay? So if it is okay, please message in the chat. Okay. So these are some of the features for low-level languages. It is considered as a machine-friendly language because machine can easily interpret this language, and it is difficult to understand for a normal user like us, and it is difficult to debug also, and its maintenance is a complex task. It would depend upon the machine, and hence it cannot run on different platforms, and it requires an assembler that would translate instructions. So if you are writing an assembly language program, you need to have an assembler in between that would translate it to the machine code because ultimately this is the only language that the computer understands. Next is high-level languages. So we are going to learn C in the subject. This is one of the high-level languages. So this is the normal developer language. So high-level language is a programming language that allows a programmer to write the programs which are independent of a particular type of computer. You know that when you learn a language, you can write that using that same language in any machine. So the high-level languages, they are considered as high level because they are closer to human languages than the machine level languages. So when writing a program in a high level language, then the whole attention that needs to be paid to the logic of the problem. So remember, when you write a program, there are two things, that is syntax, which needs to be correct anyway, and you have something called as logic. Now, can you tell me what is the difference between syntax and logic? So Delina, I think
Syntax is like grammar,
yeah,
and logic is basically
hello?
the method.
Yeah, Albert, yeah, continue. I didn't get you.
And syntax is like grammar, the set of way which we have to write it. And logic is basically the method of thoughts.
Yeah, correct. So syntax, as he has already told you, it is like a grammar. So only if you use the correct grammar for a language, even for English, when you talk, you need to follow the grammar rules. Otherwise, others would not be able to understand what you're trying to say. So similar to that, every language has a syntax defined. So that is nothing but the grammar of that language. And logic means how you use that language. That is, in say, if I tell you to add, say, 10 numbers. So in order to write this program in C language, you need to use the syntax rules of C language. Along with that, you need to use the correct logic. Logic means the way you write the program in order to compute the addition, sum of these numbers. So you need to have logic as well as syntax. If both these are correct, only you will be getting the correct output. Understood? So if both of these are correct, you will be getting the correct output. If your syntax is incorrect, if your logic is incorrect, and if your syntax is right, then if you use a translator program like a compiler, it will not be able to detect that because translator programs will only check for the syntax. It will not be able to check whether the logic is correct or not. So that is why I have told you, like, in order to learn a program, you need to keep on doing it. Unless you try doing it by yourself, you'll not be able to understand the logic of writing the programs. You might be able to by heart the syntax, but logic you have to build by yourself. So have you understood the difference between syntax and logic? So, okay. So you need to have both the grammar as well as the logic in order to get the correct output. So high level languages also have some features. That is, it can be considered as a programmer friendly language. It is easy to understand because you know that when you write in a high level language, you will be able to easily understand what you're writing. So again, it is easy to debug because normally normal users will be able to identify where the errors are there because it is similar to our language, the natural language that we are using for normal communication. So our high level languages are more closer to our natural languages. And it is simple in terms of maintenance. And it requires a compiler bar interpreter to be translated into machine code. So here also you can see that anyway, ultimately what you require is the machine code. So you need to have a language translator like a compiler or an interpreter that would translate your high level language into your machine code. And again, it can be run on different platforms. You need not learn C for say Intel machine and another C for writing programs for AMD machine, or say you need not learn programs for writing on a Windows machine and a different program for learning writing on a Linux machine. So you can learn the same C and you can code for everything. So it is less memory efficient because it would consume more memory in comparison to low level languages, because they need to store only small amount of instructions. And examples of high level languages, it is C, which we are going to learn. Then some of you have already learned C++. Then Java you will learn in your higher semester. And you have Python. Those are some of the languages. You have many other languages like Ruby and all. So high level languages, is it okay? If it is okay, please message in the chat. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll see compiler and interpreter in the next class. So, okay, thank you. You may leave the class.